Hey everyone, I'm Marvin. You know, I don't have to tell you that throughout the school year, there are many highs and lows. Now, navigating the highs, that's easy. It's wonderful watching the joy on your students' face when they overcome an obstacle that they, at the beginning, they didn't think they'd be able to overcome, but you help them through it. That's wonderful. That's wonderful living at that high. But it's those lows. Those lows can be very, very challenging. Those lows can consist of, you know, that student that you've been working with and you're trying to get them, help them to give a better effort in the classroom. And you've been working. It can also be an administration making seemingly unreasonable demands. And perhaps you feel like the administration, they've forgotten what it's like to be in the classroom. And so it's seemingly they are of no support. Another example of these lows could be that you're not getting a whole lot of parental support from home. You know, perhaps you've got students who you really are trying to work with, and it's those parent-teacher conferences, and you really want to talk to that parent so you can come up with a plan to get that student back on track. But that support is just not there. You know, these things, sadly, these lows can open the door in your mind to doubt. And let me tell you why it's so dangerous. It's so dangerous to entertain and give comfort and rest to thoughts of doubt in your mind. It's because from your thinking come your actions. From your thinking comes your actions. Now, as a teacher and as a leader in the classroom, if you're giving into these thoughts of doubt, then your students, they're not getting the best version of you. If you let these thoughts of doubt enter in your mind, you start to dwell on them and they start to control your actions. So in this video, what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about how to defeat doubt. Let's begin. Number one, you need to watch the conversations that you engage in. Now, I love talking with my colleagues at the beginning of the day, between passing time at the end of the day. I loved it. I love the people that I work with, I talk with. I love them, love them. And we enjoyed getting together and talking. But there are those moments when the conversation can turn negative. And when that happens, you have a decision to make. Now, these negative conversations, perhaps they're about teachers, perhaps they're about administration, they consider them seeds. Like you're planting seeds. When you start to entertain and engage in these conversations, you're planting seeds in your mind. And over time, if you continue doing this, then you begin to nurture these seeds. And eventually these seeds grow to produce stress, burnout, and then they start to affect your art, what you do as a teacher. These seeds eventually grow and lead to mediocre lesson planning and mediocre teaching. Now remember, what we say here all the time is that teachers are leaders. Teachers are leaders. And sometimes what that's going to require is you're going to have to model for your colleagues how to conduct yourself as a leader outside of the classroom. That includes sharing your learning. That includes maintaining that positive outlook, because as a leader, you're always looking forward to that vision statement. You're always working towards that vision statement that doesn't just disappear because there are those challenges that exist. Now, I'm not saying you should be unrealistic in your thinking. I mean, things are what they are. If the kids aren't reading on grade level, they're not reading on grade level. But you can be a positive force. You can talk about what we can do instead of the things that we don't have. And if at that time you still find it difficult to be that positive force to impact the people around you and to help them see that it's important to focus on what you can control, then at that time you you have to start removing yourself from those conversations. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't talk to your colleagues. No, not at all. But once the topic of conversation starts to transition down that toxic, negative road, you can't take part of that. You've got to remove yourself from that. That's a continuation of you setting that good example of what it's like to be a teacher, be a leader inside the classroom and outside the classroom. You've got to guard the things that enter your mind, because you don't want those things that are entering your mind to affect what you do as a teacher and as a leader. The second thing you can do is acquire the right tools for the job. Now, for a certain job, it may require an Allen wrench. Another job may require a flathead screwdriver. Another job may require a drill. You see, there are different tools for the job. And when we talk about your students and the challenges that they may present to you based on their needs, you're the one who is with the students the most. And so you have the opportunity to be that investigator and find out what they need, and then build your capacity through your professional development to meet those needs. You know, I'm reminded of the medical community in the 1980s when the AIDS virus was brand new to everyone. It was a death sentence back then. People in the medical community, they didn't quite understand what was going on, but over time, what they did was they built their capacity to meet the needs of the patients. And they built their capacity through being an investigator, asking questions, and finding those tools that they needed in order to, once again, meet the needs of their patients. And so the thinking has to be the same with you as a teacher and leader in the classroom. That includes asking questions, trial and error, observing. And so when you really consider this, you'll understand that you don't have time to stand pat and let negative thoughts enter your mind, because there are so many things that you can be doing, so many opportunities out there for you to find what is needed in order to help your students learn and grow. Now, the third thing you can do in order to defeat doubt, this involves equipping yourself with more tools, is you have to use your data. Use your data. And by using your data, I mean inquiring of the data, reading the data. What is the data telling you? And then ultimately using the data to make decisions. You remember those connect the dot activities that we did as a kid? Once you were able to connect the dots all in the right way, then you had the full picture, because you drew the lines in between the dots. Well, the activities, the connected dot activities that were more difficult were the ones that had the fewest dots. And so what I think data does is it helps you add more dots to the picture. So then it becomes easier to fill in those lines so that you can have the full picture. That's what data does. Data helps you to see the unseen. And then once you can see the unseen, once you're able to unmask what was hidden previously, then it helps you to act. Because once you can see, then you can act. Data helps you to give effective feedback and then also make adjustments, necessary adjustments along the way, so that you can help students get on that winning streak. And students on the winning streak, those are highly motivated students. And lastly, when it comes to defeating doubt, I want you to think about those test results. I want you to think a little bit differently about those test results. Those test results, they don't define who you are as a teacher. They don't. I know your administration, they may put a lot of pressure on you to have a plan to increase those scores and meet those goals. And having goals that's necessary. That's good. It's good to have a target that you're aiming for. But those test scores, they don't tell the full story. They don't tell the story of all the other things that you've been doing individually with students to help them learn and grow. They don't tell the story of the money of your own that you've spent. Those test scores don't tell the story of just how much you mean to your students. But I think the most important thing for you to do is keep your mind on the things that you can control. You can control yourself in terms of your professional development, in terms of acquiring more tools, in terms of growing your relationships with your kids. Those things are within your control. And I think that when you focus on those things, then those test scores are going to come. So in summary, number one, I want you to watch those conversations. Don't engage in negative conversations. Number two, I want you to acquire the tools that you need to meet the needs of your students. And number three, don't negate the importance of data. It's very, very helpful. And then number four, please keep in mind that test scores, they don't define who you are as a teacher. Well, I thank you so much for watching. And until we meet again, please don't ever forget that teachers are leaders.